And now I'm going to talk about a network that you probably never heard of, or if you did, you have very vague memories of, which may have been the network that was the cutting edge of networks. How many of you owned a Dumont TV? You owned the Dumont. Okay. How many of you recall the Dumont television network? What'd you watch on the Dumont network?
I heard of it, but I don't think I watched anything.
Basketball.
Basketball. Where's basketball on there? Anything else about Dumont?
Captain Video?
Captain Video and the Space Rangers.
Video Rangers, right.
Video Rangers. Now I was doing this talk up in Stamford, Connecticut, and I said Captain Video, and a woman lets out this, and I'm looking like, for Captain Video? She said, my father bought me the helmet. I watched it with the helmet on. Now, if you remember the Honeymooners, the original 39, what was Ed Norton's favorite show? Captain Video and his Rangers. Now, if you notice this, it says CBS down here. Jackie Gleason got his start on the Dumont network. Dumont didn't have the roster that NBC and CBS had. CBS had Jack Benny. They had Burns and Allen. NBC had Bob Hope. They could reach into the reservoir of the radio and put them on TV. But Dumont didn't have that luxury. It was one of the first networks on TV. It rivaled CBS and NBC. It began operations in 1946 and September 15th. And the first network television soap opera was on Dumont, which was Fairway Hill, broadcast by Dumont. But I'm going to now list some of these shows that were on that you might remember, but they weren't on Dumont. Ted Mack's Original Amateur Hour. That was Ted Bowes. That was on Dumont. That went over to CBS. The Maury Amsterdam show. Remember Maury Amsterdam? The cello player from the Dick Van Dyke Show? Maury Amsterdam had a show on Dumont. Captain Video and his Video Rangers and the woman with her helmet. They were on Dumont. The Arthur Murray Party. How many remember Arthur Murray? Okay, what did Arthur Murray do? Dance. And where did he make all his money?
Dance Studios.
Dance Studios. The Arthur, that's another one if I tell kids, who's Arthur Murray? Huh? Huh? Arthur Murray. And this guy. This guy. Remember him? Well, Ernie Kovacs got his start on Dumont. Dumont was a great network. It was just mismanaged. The Dumont network was basically, we make the TVs and then we'll put our shows on. When licenses were given out, NBC and CBS made sure that they got licenses, and they got licenses. You came from Chicago, whether it was WBBM in Chicago, and I think it's Channel 4 in Chicago, but WMAQ in Chicago is 4? Five. They got stations. Dumont didn't get stations. They got a UHF station in Pittsburgh. That was their downfall. They did not know how to run a TV network, even though they had better programming than CBS and NBC. My favorite Ernie Kovacs bit, how many Kovacs fans are in here? Remember, he's the used car salesman?
Oh.
And he's banging on the fender and the car goes right through the floor. And the Nairobi Trio was really good. So Dumont didn't have the CBS rosters, which were Lucille Ball and Jack Benny. NBC had Milton Berle and Sid Caesar, and all Dumont could offer was a then unknown Jackie Gleason. And Bishop Fulton J. Sheehan. The end of Dumont came in 1955. By then, most of their stars had migrated over to CBS and NBC. Now, 1947. This is audience participation now. Let me see if I get a good story out of you. 1947, there were 44,000 television sets sold in the United States. I'm going to give you two examples of good stories. Let's see if you have any stories. I was giving this talk. I'm based in the New York City area. I'm giving this talk again in Connecticut. And I said to a woman, I gave her the thing. She said, call on me, call on me. I said, I'm not Monty Hall. Let's make a deal. Right? She's calling me. I said, okay, I'm calling on you. She said, I had the first television set in my building in the Bronx. I said, congratulations. She said, no, I never had to pay for a babysitter ever again. Or dinner. My neighbors would come over. Now you're shaking your head. Did that happen to you? The woman in red, did that happen to you with babysitters? So how many, because you had TV, had babysitters? How many never had to cook a meal? So, but the better story was another woman, also from Connecticut. And I'm going to ask you, when did you get your first TVs? When did you get your first TVs? 1948. Okay, 1948. And so you remember the first TVs. Well, this woman distinctly remembered her first TV. She was in the Bronx, and her father came lugging up a TV, and her mother was none too happy that all of a sudden he got a TV. So all of a sudden, he brings up 6 flights, one of those Bronx tenements, brings it up 6 flights, and those TVs were not small in those days, but he lugs it up. All of a sudden, they get a knock on the door. 2 cops. That's stolen property. Yeah? The guy bought the TV off a truck. Her mother and father had a big fight that day because he's in legal trouble. And I said, what happened? She said, she divorced him. I said, over the TV? Final straw. So in 1947, there were only 44,000 TVs, and chances are, possibly some of you actually watched TV that way. How many of you went to a television store and stood in front of the store and watched TV? You know that. What street you do it on? He's from New York.
Dyckman Street.
Dyckman Street, up near Dyckman Street, which is up by the Manhattan and Bronx border. So you actually, you were one, that could be you, right?
No, I'm way young for that.
But that's how people used to watch TV. They watched TV that way. There was old Stoneface there. Yeah, you know why he did this, right? Time. I'm at 2:22. I'm good. 1948, Ed Sullivan started the Toast of the Town show, which would become the Ed Sullivan Show. And as Fred Allen once said about Ed Sullivan, as long as other people have talent, Ed Sullivan will always have a job. I've told this to some people here. My cousins Jerry Stiller from Stiller and Mirror. Remember them? Yeah. They were always on that show. And I was talking to Jerry about that one day. I said, why was Ed always like this or like this, giving the hand signals? You know the Jackie Mason story about Ed, right? That he got fired because Ed did all the motions. He did all the motions, and he thought Jackie Mason was giving him the bird. So he got fired. And so Ed was an old Golden Gloves boxing ring announcer. Now, if you think about Ed Sullivan and all his gestations when he was on stage, they are of a boxing ring announcer. Over there, the Beatles. Let's hear it. So if you watched Ed Sullivan, all those quirks were from the boxing ring, and that because he wanted to know what time it was. So that was Ed Sullivan, the toast of the town. This is the Henry Ford Museum, and why do I have "You Can Trust Your Car to the Man Who Wears the Star"? Texaco, but why is it up there? Milton Berle. Uncle Miltie. The guy who sold more TVs than anybody else. I don't know if this crowd remembers the 1948 when the show started, but I know people who've told me this over the years, that in 1948, 1949, 50, 51, on Tuesday nights, where were you? In front of the TV watching this guy, Uncle Miltie. I met him once. He was very nice to me the time I met him up at NBC. And he was going through archival stuff up at NBC because they were doing, I think it was the 70th anniversary of NBC. No, it was the 60th anniversary of NBC at the time. Uncle Miltie. Now, he was called Mr. Television. And the Texaco Star Theater was credited with driving TV sales. During Berle's run on the show, They started out in the United States with 500,000 TVs. By the time it was done, it was 30 million TVs. Milton Berle and Lucille Ball sold a lot of those TVs.